So welcome everybody. I'm Isabel from Pigalle, and today is a literary conversation of February. And Jane Lewitt-Taylor is going to lead that, as she always does. And she decided this conversation to take us still linked to books, but in a different direction. Our guest today is Kate Holland, the fabulous, wonderful Kate Holland that we all love. I've known Kate now for a few years. I've taken 2 of her workshops. Kate is a bookbinder. She's a bookbinder with a twist in the sense that she does both the wonderfully simple but delicious bookbinding that makes you want to buy any of her books or notebooks that she binds, but she also is a bookbinder to the stars, and she's going to share that with you a little bit more. We will extract that information from her. Kate is based in Somerset, and her studio is next to her house. I think it's an old farm. It's gorgeous. You need to take a few little narrow roads, and I think there's a little bridge and lots of potholes and tall hedges of Somerset that make the trip so wonderful. Jane and Kathy and a few of us, last time we visited you was about 2022, I think, and we did a book binding there. That was a fantastic course there. But today you are at Dean's College, and we'll talk about that too, because you are teaching the art of bookbinding, which is wonderful and something really important to talk about. So thank you for spending time with us. I know it's the end of a long day for you, so thank you for giving us your time. And Jane, over to you. I'm now going to disappear from that screen.
Thank you, Isabel. You're going to hear a little bit of an overlap because obviously Isabel and I must share the same brain. I have a little intro that I wrote, and if you wouldn't mind, I'm just going to read it. I was lucky to meet Kate Holland a few years ago, as Isabel mentioned, when Isabel led a small group to Somerset. Kathy, Barbara, and I took part in a private bookbinding class, led, of course, by Kate. It was in her studio on her beautiful property. Kate was very patient with us and very inviting. We ended the morning with a delicious lunch outside in Kate's garden under a magnificent sun. It's such a pleasure to be reconnecting today. In a bookbinding kit assembled by Kate, there's a brief write-up that I would like to read because I think it also tells you, the audience, a lot about Kate. Kate is a multi-award-winning bookbinder who specializes in contemporary fine bindings to commission or for exhibition. She uses traditional materials and techniques to produce a unique, modern binding that reflects the text, illustrations, and typeface of the book. She also works with individuals to create tailor-made volumes, whether one-offs or limited editions, overseeing all aspects of book production from layout through printing to binding and boxes. So as I was gathering my information to interview and spend some time chatting with Kate, I thought, oh my gosh, I still have okay. So my pride of joy that I'm sharing with you all is my book that I made all by myself. Not really, because Kate helped a lot. But this started out as just a bunch of pieces of paper and strips and thread. And obviously I haven't written in it because it's so precious to me. I don't want to even put a mark in it. But you can even see my little knot that I've made in the middle. So this is what the ladies and I made and came away with that day. And I absolutely love this. A very beginner course, obviously. And when we were there, we said to Kate, do you have anything we could buy? Or your work is so beautiful. She says, no, I don't think. And then, so of course, being Rue Pigalle women, we start looking around. Oh, what's that over there? And what about this over there? So I found, Kate brought this out, a gorgeous journal that she had found. And at the back is her beautiful signature embossed in gold. So I was delighted to have this. And then the last thing we discovered, and I think Isabel has something like this as well. And Kate, this is from quite a time ago, but I just adored it, is the Every Girl's Alphabet. And I just love it. And Isabel, I think you bought one that was maybe for girls and boys. Anyway, I keep it still, Kate, in my little box with my tissue paper in somewhere safe so no one bothers me. And I'm sort of waiting for maybe that first little person that might enter my life to have that book. Anyway, so enough about me, obviously, but that was my experience with Kate. So Kate, welcome. Thank you so much again. Yes, I know the time difference is not always so great, but let's get started. So Kate, what drew you to bookbinding to start with?
Well, I just want to say, first of all, thank you, everybody, for inviting me here. And I'm currently in my bedroom at Westdean, where I teach, which is a centre for craft, which you should look up anyway, because there are amazing workshops, and you can come and study here full time or part time, short courses. It's the most beautiful place. Anyway, what first brought me to bookbinding? Bit of a circuitous route. I studied Chinese at university with a view to becoming a contemporary Chinese art dealer. So this was back in the 80s. And I should have probably stuck to doing contemporary Chinese art because I'd be a lot wealthier now than being a bookbinder. But when I graduated, I then worked at the British Museum, and then I had no more jobs to go to. There was a recession, and just down from the British Museum, there was an antiquarian bookshop called Robert Frew, and they had a little postcard in the window saying, "I'm looking for a shop manager." And I went in and I applied and I got the job, and it was fantastic. You know, that's 7 or 8 years working there, handling antiquarian books, so all of literature, civilization, art, science, you know, in between the covers of a book. And then I think I wanted to get out of the shop a little bit. I was a bit bored, I think. And so I said, "Oh, look, I'll help you. I'll go and learn a bit of bookbinding so I can help you do a bit of restoration, you know, just help you fix your books." Because there was a lady down in the basement. She'd sit there smoking cigarettes and sort of doing up books, and I'm sure the fag ash wasn't a good idea for the books, but anyway. But I said, so I went to City Lit, where I did a morning a week course. And the first structure I ever made was that structure that you've just showed me, Jane. So that's a single section pamphlet binding. I've still got my first one, and I was hooked immediately. I was like, this is this is it. And so I then enrolled at London College of Printing to do a bookbinding. It was called a BTEC. It was pretty lowly. It was very vocational, definitely not academic. And then I got pregnant at the end of my first year. So then I was taking a baby to college with me to the crash there. And he is now 28 years old. So I know exactly how long I've been bookbinding for. It's a year longer than my son. But yeah, no, so I'm still self-employed and loving it. I haven't stopped loving every minute of it.
That's wonderful. Did you I love that you were I love that you started there, the whole thought of restoration, and which led you to bookbinding. I think that's great. Did you grow up in a creative home?
No, not particularly. My father had a garden centre, and my mother was a garden designer. So I suppose there was a bit of design going on. I never did art at school, but we did live near Hay-on-Wye, which was a book town, a very well-known book town on the Welsh borders. And so my father would take me there quite regularly to go to the bookshops. So he collected books. So books were very much a thing in the house.
Okay, so an early love of books for you as well, then I'm assuming.
Yeah.
Yeah. So bookbinding, I had never really honestly thought about it until I came, and it's not something well, I should say in Ontario anyway. And I was an elementary school teacher for a decade, and it certainly was never on my radar back then. So I was very happy to be introduced to it through you. And so I don't want to use the term dying art because as Isabel told me, it's not on the list of actual arts that are actually in fact dying. So do you find, was bookbinding something taught when you were in school in the UK, or is it something that have you in the last 28 years, have you noticed an uptick in it? What's the thought process on the lifespan of a bookbinder in a way?
Well, interestingly, it used to be on the curriculum in primary schools here.
Okay.
The young people would learn to make their own books because so many of the skills involved in making a book are life skills that we all need. So whether they're folding or cutting or sticking or sewing or measuring or, you know, using scissors or needles or glue or, you know, all these things are very basic skills. And I teach. So yeah, so then obviously that is not on the curriculum now at all. It's all digital, obviously.
Yeah.
And so when I was learning, there were quite a few bookbinding courses still, and full-time degrees that you could do, but they've gradually dropped off as I think more and more colleges decided that they needed digital. It's much easier to have a bank of computers that, you know, rather than presses and you know, and it's also a lot. Yeah. Anyway, so until about 2 years ago, there were we were going through a period where there were no bookbinding courses in the UK that you could attend. You couldn't go to college and learn it. A lot of people would. So traditionally, you join as an apprentice to a bindery, and then you'd work
Okay.
up. But then after the college courses is closed, you had to go and find a private tutor, which was very expensive and hard to find. So what I'm excited about working here at West Dean is that this is the first course we've got back on that's a full-time course in the UK. And we also teach. I teach at Bath Spa University. So there's 3 or 4 of us who go to art colleges around the country trying to get young artistically minded people to think of the book as a vehicle for their creativity. So I teach fine artists, graphic designers, photographers, you know,
Okay.
they all love making books. They're just, you know, they're really excited by it. And I think for the 20-something generation, they've all been brought up with mice and keyboards and
Right.
wipe screens. For them to actually then come back to working with their hands is really fulfilling, but also scarily, quite a lot of them don't have basic skills like knowing how to thread a needle or tie a knot, or so it's, yeah. Hopefully we haven't gone too far that way that but obviously
So then I had a few questions about teaching. I'll skip ahead to those now. So are you finding that you're really enjoying teaching? Because it's a different hat than working away in your studio. I know you've done small groups. How many would be in a class, for instance, that you would teach?
I've just done a workshop at the V&A, and that was 16 people. That was
Okay.
approaching the limit.
Okay.
I had a very, very wonderful assistant. I have taught at festivals where we've had 30 people in a tent with a band, you know, playing at the other end. So that was very challenging. But generally, I say around 8 to 10 people is plenty.
Do you think that binding books the way that you do really combines very nicely the craftsmanship and literacy together? I mean, it's a unique partnership in a way.
Well, so the bindings that I do, you have to read the book, and it's about the artistic interpretation of the text. So I need to read the book. I need to then research around the book, and you know, so you go very in depth into the subject matter, and so it's fascinating from that point of view. But it's also about the function. So it's got to work well and open and look beautiful, and so it's form and function. It's sort of almost like, I always say that it's like my son does design engineering, so it's got to be engineered well and look beautiful. Whereas
And
art just look beautiful, you know, painting.
yeah, yeah. Um, when I met you in 2022, I started following you on Instagram, and I love what you're posting, and it's really nice to be able to see come up sort of what you're working on, the classes that you've been doing, that type of thing, sort of following around your life a little bit, your professional life. And for anyone that doesn't follow Kate, and Kate, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe your Instagram handle is Kate Holland Book.
Yep.
And it's really worthwhile following that. And so I wondered, I would really like people to see with their own eyes some examples of what you've done. And I know you were kind enough to give Taylor some photos. And I wondered if you might, Taylor, bring those up on the screen. And Kate, if you could just take your time going through and talking to us about that. And I know we end with a little video.
Sure. Okay, so this is inside my. Do you want me to talk about this? Do you want me just
Sure,
to
sure,
talk?
just briefly, sure.
Okay, so this is my workshop, my studio. It's an old converted cowshed in the Somerset countryside. So this is where Isabel and Jane and Kathy and I can't remember the other one.
Barbara,
Thank you.
you're welcome.
All came and spent the day or morning, I think. But you can see that the presses I'm using, they're all vintage, old cast iron presses. You know, all the tools and materials and techniques are unchanged pretty much since medieval times. You can see medieval woodcuts of medieval bookbinders, and they're using very, very similar tools to the ones that I use.
Can I interrupt and ask, some of them that we had to use, they were actually quite physically taxing. I mean, is that something you discover, or are you just used to, you know, your forearm strength is so great at this point that it's not? But I was shocked at, you know, when we had to turn things to tighten it when you're pressing. I mean, it was quite impressive.
Well, there's a running joke in my family that I can beat my husband at an arm wrestle. Yeah, you have to be strong, and you're standing up all day, and you're lifting and squatting and carrying and twisting, and so yes, it is a physical thing, which, you know, I think has got to be good.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not stuck sitting at a desk and a screen. So the picture on the left, you can the picture on the left, there's a little press on the left, so that's a blocking press. So you know when you get gold lettering on the cover of a book, they'll have put in metal type, and that gets heated up, and it gets laid, foil gets laid over, and then you pull the arm, and that presses through that. And then the press in the middle, so there's several books in that press. And then the picture on the right, that's my workbench, and you can just about see down through the other side. There's the big green board chopper, and yeah. So then the next picture. So these are some process shots. So I thought it's quite possibly interesting, hopefully, to show you how a book.
Absolutely.
So actually, I'm missing one or two, but I'll explain it. So the picture on so this is a facsimile of the Kelmscott Chaucer. So we all know William Morris, and he had the Kelmscott press, and his most famous work was the works of Geoffrey Chaucer. And this is a perfect facsimile of that book. The real thing is, you know, hundreds of thousands of pounds, but I can pick up these facsimiles for a bit less. So each of the folded sections is pierced. So that's the picture on the left. And then they're sewn together. So I'm missing the sewing image, but you can imagine. So then you look on the image on the right, you can see that they're sewn on tapes. So each of the sections, you can just about see a little stitches around the back of the tapes there. Yep, thank you.
Oh yeah.
And so each of those ridges is a fold of paper, a section. In America or Canada, they're called signatures. And the tapes act as a support. So then that process on the right is rounding. So when they're sewn, the spine is straight, perpendicular. But to get it into that you know, the well-known familiar rounded and backed shape, which is what that center picture is, it requires hammering into that shape. So yeah, and then the boards are attached, and then I don't know what the next page, so we'll have to go on to the next picture, please, Taylor. Okay, so the sewing, that bottom middle one is the sewing. So you can see it, and that's all my books are sewn by hand. So it's quite a lot of work, obviously.
Yeah, that's a lot of work. Yeah. Are the little sections done together, and then all the sections are joined at one time with the signature?
And each section is, so the bottom section is sewn to the tapes, and then the next section up is sewn to the section below and around
Yeah,
as well. And so you just build it up,
yeah, okay,
form a book. So the book that you made was a single section. So
right,
one fold.
okay,
So this is multiple folds of paper.
right.
And then, so the picture on the left, I've dyed the top edge, and I've got matching end papers. So these are dendritic paste papers, and then the bottom, the tail and the foredge of the pages are decollage, because it's a handmade paper, mold-made paper. And then you have a sewn headband. So if on the picture on the right, so this is a decorative and supportive structure. So it helps to, its main purpose nowadays is decorative. So this is a triple silk sewn headband. And again, because this is a big book, it's a big headband. So there's one at the top and one at the bottom. So Taylor, probably go on to the next slide, please.
Kate, do you have a process that it's part of it is, oh, I absolutely love doing the dyeing, or I absolutely love doing the stitching. And then do you have a part where you kind of, your least favorite part of putting something together?
My least favorite part is sanding.
Okay.
There's a lot of sanding. And I don't know, originally it used to be sewing because it's quite meditative. But actually, kind of all of it. Sewing the headbands is wonderful. But once you've got a skill level that you're not flustering that you're going to mess it up and get it wrong, you can sort of relax a bit and enjoy the process and get in the zone. And yeah, no, I enjoy all of it. Seeing the whole
And
thing together.
because you've been doing it for 28 years, obviously you're a very different bookbinder than when you first started out. And you just mentioned if you can get over being flustered, which I can totally imagine that situation. Have you changed any of your process in terms of the actual binding since you started?
But this is a fine binding, so it has a leather cover. You can actually see on here on the picture on the left. This is a process shot, but this is, so you can see it's covered in leather. Then the green is what's called an edge-to-edge doublure. So that's a lining for the inside of the board. Then the orange printed paper, that's a separate fly leaf. And then you can just see a sort of terracotta piece of leather that runs from the the bit in between the paper and the green. So that's a very considered to be elements of a fine binding.
Okay.
And then the terracotta, yes, the terracotta onlay. So the picture on the right is the back of that piece of green leather, and it's been shaved off the back. So you can see the terracotta onlay where it's been shaved off underneath to allow the onlay to sink into the surface of the leather. So it sort of sits within it rather than on it.
Yeah.
And that's edge pairing it before I then stick it onto the inside of the board. So probably the next picture, more M-band. So this is sort of finished book, open book, M-band. Next picture, I think, probably. So this is the outside of the book. So
it's beautiful.
It's based on a stained glass window in a church in Wales that William Morris designed, and it's the Tree of Life is the stained glass window. So and I sort of took a leaf out of William Morris's book, and I thought, if I put all this effort and time into doing this design, why not do 4 different colorways? So I actually I've only got the one here. This is the orange colorway, but I also did an apple and a pomegranate.
Oh, okay. Wow.
So the leather's different, the inside printed M papers are different, but they're the same, but just a different color. And then it's gold leafed around the border. And the picture on the left, you can see, so that's the cutout of the leather has been cut out, and then it's laid on top. So it's got to be in exactly the right position for all the they're painted and pen and ink leaves and branches and fruit underneath. So
And
there's
this was commissioned? Someone asked you to do this for a company or a place or personal?
for an individual.
Okay, wow.
So he commissioned me to do this, and it's big. It's almost a meter tall. Meter?
Wow.
No, not quite meter. 3 feet tall. Yeah, it's big.
And yeah.
And yeah, so he commissioned me to do this, the one, and then I was like, okay, I quite like this design. Would you mind if I replicated it? But I won't do exactly the same as yours. They'll all
Yeah.
be slightly different. So yeah, so there's one in a UK collection, there's one in Bangkok, one in Hong Kong, and one in the States.
Oh, wow. And how long did it from start to finish did this take you?
One book. So I always say that one book is about 150 hours of bench.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So they're not fast things.
No.
I can't remember what the next picture is. Can we see? Oh, okay. Sorry. We're on to a new thing. So I don't know if we're ready to go on to the new thing.
Yes, that's great. All good.
And again, you're only getting the detail shot and the inside of the book, unfortunately. But this is a miniature book about beetles, and I made this book. Before this book, I'd done 5 huge books for a private press in Dublin, and they were about abortion and illegal immigration and religious intolerance and
Wow.
really hardcore subjects. And I was like, and they were huge, and I needed to counterbalance that with something small and delicate and frivolous. And so this is a miniature book about beetles. And so, but then you can't sadly, I haven't got the picture of the whole thing, but they're letterpress printed, hand colored woodcuts, and it's a Doll's House like publisher.
Oh, it's so sweet.
And then the image on the left, so you can see the green. So these are the electra. So they're like the wing casings that open up, and the wings are they're movable, so they go in and out under the wing cases, and they're vellum with pen and ink and gold edging, and then it's got it's cute.
Yeah, it looks adorable.
I think that's all there is of this book, I think, isn't there? So this is Frankenstein. So this is I hopefully is trying to. So you read the book, and a lot of the book of Frankenstein is set on the Mer de Glace in the French Alps. And so I wanted to create the atmosphere. It's very cold and miserable and, dark and gothic. And so the image top left is the covers. Obviously it's covered in fair calf, so calf skin that's been covered with platinum leaf. So we have a bell here that rings every 15 minutes. Normally to tell us it's time for tea break, which is we're always having a tea break here. Anyway, so it's platinum leaf and graphite, and then it's a white alum tawed goatskin onlay, very, very thin, that's then been it's pen and ink. So all those lines that look like a woodcut are pen and ink. So I don't know if you can go in a bit, Taylor. But
So what happens in this situation if you're working away on the leather and you make a mistake? Are you starting again from scratch?
it depends what the mistake is and
Okay.
where it is, and whether you can adapt your plan to accommodate the mistake, or think of an onlay to go over it. So yeah, I suppose if we're actually looking at this book, so the gray, the snow,
Mm-hmm.
all drop snowflakes falling, or hail, or whatever you want to call it. So where there are the dark holes, So what I did, I got the leather, I graphited it. So it started off as a beige natural color. And so then it's got graphite all over it. So then it becomes a grey, shiny color. And then it's laid over the whole thing with platinum leaf. And then, so those marks are gravel that I've got on my driveway.
Oh,
Impressed the
wow.
whole thing with gravel. And then accidentally, so it wasn't the intention, the dark holes, it removed some of them, they kept, the platinum stayed in, and some of them, when I took them off, they took the platinum away with them. And so in my head originally I was thinking, oh, they'll all be silvery indentations, but some of them stayed black, and I was actually like, this is better for having those black hole voids. So that was a mistake, or a non-intended thing that was then a fortuitous accident.
Mm-hmm.
So as long as you can post justify it, then it's it's not a mistake.
Can I ask you a question, Kate? Did you create the image first and then kind of transferred it and or outlined it, or did you just go freehand, or what was the creation chief process of that image?
It's from an original woodblock print from the time when Mary Shelley was writing Frankenstein of the Mer de Glace. So I just took a tiny element of that woodblock and blew it up massively. And then I reverse offset printed it onto the leather. And then I went over that with pen and ink. So it's not freehand. It's there is an element of transferred image that's then pen and inked over the top.
And you had to work out the spine and how the image were going to be distorted by the spine once you had applied it on.
Yeah. Yeah, the book has to work. I think I say there's 13 different planes. So there's the front cover, there's the spine, there's the back cover, then there's the whole book open as you see it now. And then there's top edge, foredge, bottom edge, doublures, back, front and back doublure, front and back end paper. I think that's 13. I haven't been counting, but there's lots of different areas and the end bands to express your creativity, and they all have to work as a whole. What I also haven't got is an image of the illustrations inside. So they are ink drip illustrations by Todd Horsfeld, I think, off the top of my head. And so he did these extraordinary images using a hypodermic syringe of ink suspended
Oh my gosh.
over the paper. So the images are all very black and white with a little tiny bit of red. So you can see I've just got that tiny bit of red. In fact, the only bit of red is on the title page of the book. And the book is a letterpress printed by Arian Press in San Francisco. And then inside, so the middle lower image is the back doublure and end paper. And unfortunately, you can't see the front one, but the photographic image that you see on the fly there. So on the front one, I used an image of the Mer de Glace, which is a huge glacier in the Alps, as it was at the time Mary Shelley was writing Frankenstein. And then this rear one is the Mer de Glace now in the 21st century.
Wow.
It's basically disappeared. And it's a statement about man, or humanity. I've been told off using the word man. It should be humanity. Interfering with nature and the disastrous things that happen. So obviously in Frankenstein, he's interfering with nature, but then this is also a commentary on humanity's interfering with nature and what happened, global warming, etc., etc. And then the doublures are there. So this is the grey, mottled, striated is meant to look like when a glacier scrapes over a rock. You get those striations and scratches on it. So it's leather that's been dyed and
Beautiful.
The Mer de Glace is in Chamonix at the foot of the Mont Blanc.
Yeah. And yes, they've been measuring its retreat for many years. So it's one of the sort of most visible, and the edges are platinum, rough edge platinum.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, so that's Frankenstein. So, but I think hopefully it's sort of also showing you the thinking about, you know, adding another artistic layer to the text and the illustrations. And so it's another, it needs to work as a whole and not clash with or yeah, it's difficult because you're coming along as the bookbinder, you're coming along at the end. The book already exists. Someone has written it. Mary Shelley wrote it, you know, however long ago. And then Arion Press decided to do the typeface, and they employed an illustrator. So it's a tricky part of a creative process to come in once something has already been made.
Oh, I can imagine. And I know that you were chosen by the Booker Prize people to do a fancy cover for the book James by Percival Everett. So, you know, when people like that reach out to you, or a private commission or whatever, and you know, we've saw the Chaucer that you did too with the inspiration from the stained glass and Frankenstein. I know you've read the book, but do you come up with a sort of like, okay, I've got 5 good ideas, but maybe only 3 of them can I actually put in place? I mean, what's the creative process there? How are you coming up with this? I mean, what you've done for Frankenstein to me is just mind blowing. Just the thought process. Oh, I'm going to use this, and then on the inside, I want this. I mean, it's such a homage to the book, and I think you just elevate it so much with the book binding. So, how do you, after you've read it? I don't know if you're taking notes while you read it, but like, what comes to mind for you?
Well, Frankenstein was just cold.
Yes, yes,
But
but I
that was
mean, you went and used the blow up of the what did you call it? Sorry,
Mer de Glace.
yeah. I mean, it just
With James,
everybody has a different way of looking at things, I guess. I'm just wondering what I know it was cold, but it's an interesting
but
concept.
equally, there's some really stereotypical tropes that will have been used on a cover of Frankenstein a million times. So whether it's
Right,
the
right. So you're
monster,
trying to
the
avoid
lightning,
that.
always
Yeah,
trying to avoid that.
yeah.
Um, with James, it was obviously a retelling of the adventures of Huckleberry Finn
Yes.
on the viewpoint of the runaway slave Jim in Huck Finn, and it's made me angry. That was my overriding feeling about it. And so, but I was then thinking, it's got to be really visceral, and it's got to be, you know, whipping, you know, scars, whipping, blood. And then I was like, actually, that's really not very respectful of the people who've been, you know, have suffered that and their descendants. So, and then it's also a lot of it is about language and how the slaves speak, you know, the Queen's English or American English, as opposed to what we would think of as slave English, you know, as we were seen in Hollywood movies and such. So it's a play on that. So Percival Everett. So I went for the language aspect of it, but also bringing in subtle, angry elements. So using all the words for the slave experience that are, you know, whether it's whipped, angry, scared, bleeding, tearful, you know, they're all the picking out every word throughout the book and then handwriting them on the end papers. But underneath it said freedom and hope, because that's what they were searching for.
Yeah. Wow. So when you have a personal commission, I know we still have a couple slides, but when you have someone personally approach you because they want you to personally do something for them, does that, do the 2 of you, is it like a partnership where you reach out and talk to them about what they're looking for? Or do they say to you, you have total freedom of creativity and I just would like to see what you come up with? How does that work?
Generally, I'm pretty much a free rein.
Mm-hmm.
People will come to me because they've seen my work, and
Yes.
they're happy for me to be let loose on it. There is the odd client who would like to see some initial sketches. There's the odd client who really wants to have a hand in the creative process.
Yes, I'm sure.
Bless them. Um, and sometimes, actually, to be fair, the Kelmscott Chaucer, my initial design, I showed the client. He's like, I'm not so sure about that. And so I went back and had another go, and that was the second attempt. And
Okay.
a much more successful design than the first one.
Okay.
Sometimes, you know, it's it's not, yeah. I'm happy to work with the client, but there's a limit to how many times we can
For
turn.
sure. For sure. Yeah. Yeah.
I think I say you can have one change, and then beyond that, it'll
It's
cost
up
you.
to me. Yeah. Well,
Or-
they've also sought you out because they've seen your work. So that sort of is indicative. Taylor, what's the next slide that we have?
Okay, so this is the Gifts of Unknown Things. It's a book about a man who's shipwrecked on a desert, not a desert island, but an island not inhabited by Westerners. So for him, it's a desert island, not a desert, but it is the native population are not Westerners. But he becomes, and it was a commission from a lighting artist called Bruce Monroe, who's pretty internationally famous, and he's commissioned me to do about 5 books now, and they're all the books that have influenced his work. So I source first editions of those books, and then it's up to me. But I also include a nod to his work in the bindings. So the multicolored dots you see on the inside de bleu on the right are his. So they were giant circles of light towers that he sets them in the landscape, and you can walk around them. But so these are actually tooled dots, but in colored lights. But I think the number is 64. I can't quite remember, but it's a magical number, and it's how the resonance of the earth breathing or something. I can't remember. But anyway, it's but then on the right is an aerial shot of the coral reef around the actual island that this author was marooned on.
So did you pick up the leather color to match the water from the aerial shot?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
And then the image on the left is so the leather has been, again, it was hand dyed, so it's dyed to represent, unfortunately it's a side shot, not the whole shot, but I quite like this image because you get to see the edges as well. So the leather's been dyed to look like a sunset. And another part of the book is the green flash, you know, when the sun sinks below
Oh, yes.
get the green flash. So there's a gold horizon tooled along there, and then there's a gold leaf sun with a green tooled edge just around it. And then the gold dots are obviously the reflection of the sun on the sea, on the water. And the edges are sand. It's blown up grains of sand that are printed on the edges. So it's going from the sea through onto the land.
It's beautiful.
Yeah, so that's that one. And then the last one, I think, so this is Breakfast at Tiffany's. And this is a commission from a publisher in America. And he said to me, I want first edition Breakfast at Tiffany's, and I want it set with diamonds. So I was like, okay. So this is actually a prototype in cubic zirconia, but the real thing will be made in platinum and diamonds. So you can just see. So the book is it's the streets of New York. So that's the picture on the left is the rear cover, and you know the grid pattern of Manhattan. And if you can go in a bit closely, so they're pavé set diamonds in platinum grid that's then set into the leather covers. And I've also, because the problem with bookbinding is how do you display it? It either sits in a box on a shelf.
Right. Yeah.
I was thinking about how to make it more of a sculptural piece. So my son and I, the thing underneath it, sorry, still on the left, is a glass block, cast glass block. And you can't quite see from this angle, but it supports the book in an open position, and it supports the text block of the book as well. And it's almost as if it's sort of in a bird in flight. So like Holly Golightly. So there's the bird will come. So the next image is a bird's eye view of the book in a bird cage. So then I was like, okay, we need to make a glass plinth for it to sit on, and then we need to make a bird cage for it to sit inside. And I'm blessed this publisher has been very, very accommodating to allow my flights of fancy. So in Breakfast at Tiffany's, Holly Golightly, there's a vintage birdcage motif that runs throughout the book, and it's about, for me, it's about domestic servitude and female emancipation and sexual freedom, and but it's all captured within this birdcage, and she's just trying to flee it. And then the next image, I think, is the back of the book, so you can see how the book is supported on the plinth. And the photographic image is by the photographer. It's a photo montage by the photographer David Atty. And he was originally commissioned by Truman Capote to do a suite of images to illustrate Breakfast at Tiffany's. And it was going to be published in Harper's Bazaar. But because of the subject matter of the book, it was considered too racy. And so the book was pulled. They didn't publish it, and it was then later published by Esquire magazine. But only one of the images was used in the magazine. So all these images were never seen. And I got permission from the David Atty's son to reproduce the whole set of images.
Wow.
And now it's the first time they've ever been published as a complete set in print. They've been published digitally, but not in print.
That's incredible. And then you've got the bird on the, is that on the
That's
back?
the bird on the rear doubleur, and then on the inside front doubleur is a cat. So she picks up a cat who's out free on the streets and domesticates him, but then he runs away again.
So Kate, out of all these books that even just the ones you've shown us, but your whole catalog of works, is there one that you're most proud of, do you think? Or a couple that really stand out years later that you did and you think back to them? Or there must be, I'm sure.
I mean, I still love the Mediterranean food book, which you mentioned right at the beginning. And I was like, I'm sorry, I've got a picture of it.
It is beautiful. I have a picture if Kate wants to focus on me. See if it's on paper, but still the colors, it's obviously suede, I think, Kate.
Leather, it's dyed leather.
Oh, dyed leather. It's beautiful.
It's obviously it's a pattern of dots that have been colored and inset into the leather, and then gold tooling as well. And it's meant to be a Mediterranean sun, but it's based on a speaker that was on the ceiling of my exercise class. And I was looking at this. I was obviously not paying attention to the exercise class.
I just want to mention that you have 10 minutes.
Ah.
And I know you might have other questions, but other members in the audience might have questions. So just to let you know.
Yes,
Okay.
thank you.
So we
Sorry.
can quickly do the rest of the Breakfast at Tiffany's images.
Yeah.
Yeah. So then we also made a trunk that is very similar to the one in Holly Golightly's apartment for the whole thing to be housed in. And then I think the next image, so that's a close-up. So the blue, will be an emerald cut sapphire, and that's where the Tiffany's flagship store is on Fifth Avenue.
Beautiful.
So that's, and you can see the set of images in the. So there is a film, but yeah, I'm going to ask questions because the music's muted on here, but you can see inside there. So there's the cat that she picks up.
Right.
And hopefully we'll move on from looking at a book to it's better when the music's on and not me talking. There's the sapphire, and dear, sorry.
It's so beautiful. It's amazing. I mean, that's
okay. So this is making the bird cage. So this is my friend Dom, who's a very, very good cabinet maker. He also made the trunk. This is Jade, who's the glass artist, polishing the plinth. So is bringing and collaborating with all these other artists. And this is Bentley and Skinner, So they also did the Damien Hirst diamond encrusted skull. I don't know if you know that. And then there's me in my workshop sewing. So there's sewing a book, there's trimming the edges of a book, there's tooling, the lettering, wiping off the platinum leaf, and then this is the portfolio of the images, and more images, and then that's the end of the film, I think.
It was great. Thank you so much, Kate.
Yes. No, thank you.
Yes, Kate, thank you so much. I really appreciate your time, and listening to you is always a pleasure, and seeing your work and having you explain it to us was really a beautiful way to spend an hour. So again, thank you so much.
No, pleasure. Thank you, guys.
We have a trip we're working on a trip to Somerset in October, and I'm busy working on the itinerary. So if we can, we will come and visit Kate. That would be lovely.
Do.
Jane, thank you again for doing this literary conversation. The
My
next
pleasure.
one is
April the 24th. I'll be live in store in person. Books and Company bookstore in Picton.
Prince Edward County,
Yeah. Isabel will be there with me, and we'll be discussing upcoming books for summer reads and having a look at a new book, new to us bookstore. It'll be really fun.
Yeah. And next week, don't forget that we have the rescheduled Stitching Circle conversation with Richard McVittis. It's on the 28th. And we have the members mixer at the lobby in Summerhill on the 25th. And it's a fabulous Canadian textile artist. So come along, bring your friends, and enjoy some really fabulous craft. Thank you so much, Craft. Thank you, everybody.